Alright, what's going on, guys? First anime episode of Dorohedoro. We've been talking about it for a long time if you watch my manga videos, but here it is. Let's talk about the animation, let's talk about the story, let's just talk Kaiman and Dorohedoro in general. Let's do it! Alright, so this episode starts off with a battle scene. We got Kaiman and Nikaido. Kaiman being the giant green lizard dude, Nikaido being the girl with the blonde hair, and they're fighting some sorcerers. Now, they explain this in the episode a little bit later, but just to give you guys a little bit of background information, they live in a place called the Hole. It's a wretched place where people live, and they're constantly on guard from magic users, because magic users come through these magic doors, and they test their magic on the people of the Hole. And because of this, many of the inhabitants of the Hole are disfigured as a result, as noted by Kaiman's appearance. So Nikaido and Kaiman just make it a point to attack any magic user that they see, and Kaiman, in the midst of the battle, decides to take one of the dudes and shove him in his mouth. He puts his head into his mouth. Now, what's interesting is that when he does this, we see a specter or a man inside of Kaiman's mouth, and he looks at the guy and he says, "You are not the one." Afterwards, Kaiman takes the guy out of his mouth and he asks, "Hey, what did the guy say my mouth said?" So Kaiman is fully aware that there is someone living inside his mouth, and by quote-unquote eating someone, the guy will ask him the question and he will look at his face and inspect him. Now, the reason they're doing this is that Kaiman was turned into a lizard dude by a sorcerer a long time ago, and he's trying to find the sorcerer who changed him this way, because if he can find that sorcerer, there's a possibility that maybe they can change him back and he can return to his normal body again. Now, the guy that Kaiman just bit down on, the guy said to Kaiman, "I'm not the one." So Kaiman's like, "Well, you're no use to me. Slice and dice." He takes care of him. It's over. He's dead. But right before he dies, he uses his fingers and this black smoke comes out and he summons a magic door, and his friend Fujita is able to escape. So Kaiman's a little bit dismayed, a little bit bummed out that they weren't able to get the second magic user, especially since he wasn't able to bite down on Fujita's head. But they killed one, so one less sorcerer around in the Hole to worry about. And then afterwards, that's when they kind of go into the background information about the Hole that I just briefly described, how it's a wretched place and they're constantly on guard from magic users. Now, for the manga readers out there, it looks like we go through the first 3 chapters of the manga and we jump around a bit. I don't believe it was completely verbatim. There was a little bit jumping around, some skipping of some information, some omissions as well. So it's not like a perfect adaptation. If you read the manga, you're gonna know everything that's in the anime. But that being said, it's still Dorohedoro at the end of the day. And then after that, Kaiman's working at a hospital. We see some people in the Hole that have been deformed and disfigured by the magic users. And Nikaido decides, okay, gotta get out of here. I'm gonna go back to my shop, my restaurant. I'm gonna cook up some food. Kaiman's like, okay, I'll meet you later. And then afterwards, Nikaido gets to a restaurant and she notices a guy that's sitting on the ground. Now, this guy says he's tired and hungry. He comes into the shop. Nikaido decides to feed him, but as a result of this man takes advantage of Nikaido's good graces and decides to attack her with his own magic. Now, afterwards, Kaiman comes back to the restaurant. He's ready for some food, but he sees his friend Nikaido down on the ground. She's in a lot of pain. She doesn't know what to do. She needs some help. And Kaiman decides, hey, I gotta kill another sorcerer now. Now, this sorcerer decides to use his black magic, his smoke, on Kaiman, but it doesn't work. So Kaiman is resistant to magic, and this is very critical because sorcerers are only strong if they have their magic to use. So Kaiman is a lizard dude. He has an unfortunate circumstance. However, it does afford him an interesting power in which he cannot be harmed by another magic user's special powers. So, unable to stop Kaiman with his magic powers, the guy's like, oh crap, I gotta get out of here. He summons a magic door, but due to some machinations behind the scenes, he isn't able to get through the door. Now, the reason is because of this. Fujita went back to En and told him about the situation in which his partner died, and En, now I should mention, En is the guy with the red hair in the mushroom room, the guy smoking the pipe. He decides to close all the magic doors. Therefore, no one's able to get in, and more importantly, no one's able to get out. So this guy's stuck in the hole, and Kaiman does the same thing. He bites down on him, offs him, and that's that. It's over. In the last part of the anime, we see Kaiman and Nikaido walking on the streets, and then Kaiman encounters a little person wearing a skull mask. It's another sorcerer, so they decide, hey, another sorcerer, let's bite down, let's see what happens. However, when he pulls the mask off, it's a little girl, and a little scared girl at that. And it turns out from Fujita's scanner that we find out that the little girl is called Abisu, and she's scared out of her mind. She's in a total state of shock, and Nikaido's like, what should we do? Kaiman's like, I don't know. Fuck it, I'll bite down on her head. Now, we don't get to see whether or not the specter inside of Kaiman got to ask the question, because right before that happened, Fujita was able to summon a door, and he grabs Abisu and rips her back into the sorcerer realm. Now, Abisu's safe, however, her face is a little torn to shreds, and she's not going to be quite the same after this, for better or for worse. And trust me, if you're just watching Dorohedoro, you haven't read the manga, it is for the better. It might seem a little weird at first, but just trust me, it's for the better. And then after that, Kaiman has a very perplexing dream. He dreams about the guy inside of him escaping and coming out and all this blood, and he wakes up, and that's about the end of the episode. So guys, in terms of like the adaptation from manga to anime, like I said, they jump around a bit, but I feel like they're just trying to set the world. The pace felt a little bit brisk, maybe a little bit too fast for my taste. That being said, they're really trying to lay the groundwork. They're really trying to get everyone up to speed, especially if you're an anime-only watcher. So, you know, it felt a little fast, but I'm not going to complain about that. In terms of the animation, I didn't dislike it, but I didn't like it. I guess I'm ambivalent at this point. There wasn't a lot of detail in the characters' faces. They felt a little bland. I would, you know, like Nikaido's face, for example, just kind of looked a little blocky, like there was no detail. It almost looked like if you didn't see her lower half of her body, you would almost guess that maybe she's a little overweight. But if you read the manga, she's anything but. She's basically a 9 out of 10. She's got to work on that butt, though. But, you know, it's weird because her face kind of looks almost a little bit pudgy. There's not a lot of detail on Kaiman either, and En looked a little bit weird to me too. He looked cool nonetheless. I just would like a little more detail, and that's sometimes the problem with CGI. You know, things don't look completely natural, and some of the movements of the characters, like when there was a part where En was walking in the room, in the mushroom room, and it just looked a little bit awkward. I believe his coat was kind of blowing a little bit, and it just kind of looked very rigid. It didn't look like it had any slack to it. And I feel like the color palette was a bit off-putting because the whole is supposed to be this wretched, dreary place with a lot of dark tones, sepia tone, black, just gray, all sorts of bleakness. And I feel like the characters, especially their outfits, just look too vibrant. Like the contrast just doesn't feel right to me. It looks a bit odd. Like Nikaido's suit is this bright blue, and it just pops right off of the screen. Sometimes those sorts of contrasts can work, but I feel like this blue should have been muted a little bit. Kaiman feels a little too green for me. It almost seems kind of like a lime green, kind of bright. Maybe they should have made it a little more of a realistic green, kind of like a darker, grayish kind of green, you know? I feel like those colors are just too pronounced, and they needed to tone it down a bit so it would sort of blend in with the backdrop. So I feel like they could have nailed this if they would have worked on the color contrast and if they would have added some more detail to the characters. Because like I said before, the characters' faces just look a bit plain to me, a bit too simple. And I gotta say, I mean, in terms of something I did like about the animation, the backdrops were very nice. They had a nice little 2D aesthetic to them too, so that was fantastic. But the characters just kind of feel a little bit off to me. I won't compare it to like PS2 graphics, it's not that bad. It's actually generally good. It's just, there were a lot of blemishes that I noticed. And maybe blemish is just not the right word, but a lot of unfulfilled potential. That's what we'll go with. Unfulfilled potential. So animation needed a little bit of work, but it's not egregious to the point where I'm gonna say, oh, this is crap, I'm gonna drop this series. I'm not gonna go that far. The plot was a little bit brisk for my taste. Obviously, we got some insight onto the characters. That was very nice. We'll have to see how they grow throughout the series. And then, I failed to mention this, but at the very end, we got a glimpse at two other sorcerers as they were beating some people up, and two pretty large people here. One in like a WWE costume, just smashing people up, had the word Noi on the back of the jacket. And then we see this other guy with a heart-shaped mask, and he's got a hammer in his hand. So pretty sadistic stuff, and this is going to be a very dark series. And for the manga readers, you know that it gets very gruesome and very violent and bloody very quick in the series. And the transfer over to an anime, they kind of have to mute that stuff. They have to eliminate it, if you will. But I think they found some creative ways to integrate it into the story without diminishing the effect to such an extent that you don't feel the weight of certain actions. So I feel like they handled the gore pretty well. But with that said, guys, I would say this is a good episode, and I'm very excited to see how it continues next week. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel for more Dorohedoro anime reviews. I also got 5 volumes of manga reviews out, so if you can't wait for the next episode, you can watch the manga review and catch up on everything Dorohedoro related. But with that said, guys, I'll catch you on the flip side.